Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our Booster Club members for your many donations and much more, your prayers. We visited faraway countries and strange lands. We've even spoken to dignitaries and were detained for spreading the glorious gospel in Cuba. The truth is that the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel were scattered throughout the world. Help us on our journey as we continue to raise up the nation of Israel. 12 tribes worldwide. Join or donate today. Shalom.
All right. Shalom again. Today's class is entitled, Is Thanksgiving a Holy Convocation of the Israelites and God? Is Thanksgiving a holy convocation of the Israelites and God? All right, as we know, the earth just got done doing their turkey dances and burning their houses down, trying to fry turkey. And, you know, our brothers and sisters probably had some chitlins and hog maws and good old pig intestines. Oh, wait, that's Christmas, huh? It's Christmas, New Year's. So we're going to touch on it a little bit. We're going to touch on Thanksgiving. In the class, we're going to read. We're going to be reading a lot. So we're going to be reading a lot. Probably help out with the reading for the sake of time. But we're going to touch on a lot of history. Pull up a couple articles. One of these articles I've had for years. Is actually very hard to find unless you know the exact title on the internet. I've had it since maybe 2012. I think I first found it. And it's hard to find unless you know the exact title when you pull it up on the internet. And you guys have all the stuff in the email, so to pull it up, to just click the links. But we're going to get started. Again, is Thanksgiving a holy convocation of the Israelites and God? Let's start with Nahum chapter 3. And for those of you that have been studying, and you know, every year we come up to the holy days, you always want to, you know, make sure for a lot of you, you're just going back over the holy days, right? Refreshing your minds, making sure that, hey, okay, I got it. Same, likewise, with the pagan days. Do a small study into them just to see. Definitely you want to know the origin of these things, right? So you'll know, oh, I don't celebrate that because of this. Obviously, because God said so. It's not in the Bible, or God did not tell me to, obviously. But then also, you know, you find some small origins. You know, you don't have to, you know, dive deep into it, but get some small origins of what it is, right? So today we're going to talk about Thanksgiving. Nahum chapter 3, verse 1.
Nahum chapter 3, verse 1. Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not.
Notice what it says. It says, woe to the bloody city. It is all full of lies and robbery. It is all full of lies and robbery. Guess what? And that's what's celebrated. That's what was celebrated 2 days ago. And we went out on the streets. Man, that's another one. I didn't even put that in this class, but I'm going to just hit it real fast right now while it hit my brain. We went out on the Black Friday. Our people are so lost. Like, who knew how Black Friday started? Anybody? Black Friday was the selling of the blacks on sale this Friday. That was Black Friday. one of the oldest things in the book, just like the trade market. Same difference. Christmas gifts, same difference. It's always us being sold and given, always. And we run out, of course, because it's a sale. You know, everybody likes a good sale. But our people don't have no clue what went around on Thanksgiving to the streets. Again, our people have no clue. Talk to a sister. First of all, the sister didn't believe in God. She said she doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving, but then by the end of the conversation, she was telling me why she celebrates Thanksgiving. Family, everybody has heard it. Everybody has heard it. Family, oh, it's just a time for family to get together. I said, well, sis, God gives us a whole bunch of time that family could get together. What about those times? No matter what you think or whether if you choose to ignore it or not, you're celebrating some sort of historical event. Likewise, with our Feast of Dedication, we're celebrating the conquering that we won, the conquering of our enemy. Thanksgiving, they're celebrating the conquering of theirs and have tricked us all into doing it with them. And so, again, read Nahum 3 from the top.
Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not.
Read.
The noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots.
Right. Because guess what? Whether we realize it or not, that's what the celebrating of Thanksgiving is. We're celebrating a bloody massacre. Right? So let's go into some history. Get that first link I put up there. The myths of Thanksgiving story. The myths of the Thanksgiving story and lasting damage they imbue. All right, read that.
The myths of the Thanksgiving story and lasting damage they imbue. In truth, massacres, disease, and American Indian tribal politics are what shaped the Pilgrim Indian Alliance at the root of the holiday.
Read in its tradition. It's a tradition. Just read that part.
It's a tradition that pulls on a history passed down through the generations of what happened in Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Local Native Americans welcomed the courageous, pioneering pilgrims to celebratory feasts. But as David Silverman writes in his new book, this land is their land. I need some help with that.
The Wampanoag.
The Wampanoag Indians, Plymouth Colony, and the troubled history of Thanksgiving.
Right. So this guy, David Silverman, writes in his new book. Can we pull up David Silverman? That's David Silverman. I don't think he's a native. That's David Silverman. But David Silverman understands the truth in the history of what actually happened. So let's go down. Let's go back to the article. Go down under the book cover, We Spoke With. Read that.
We spoke with Silverman, a history professor at George Washington University, about his research and the argument he makes in his book.
Read on. Now just go down to ahead of.
Ahead of the 400th anniversary of the first Thanksgiving, a new look at the Plymouth colony's founding events told for the first time, with Wampanoag people at the heart of the story.
Right underneath, how did he become interested?
I've had a great many conversations with Wampanoag people in which they talked about how burdensome Thanksgiving is for them, particularly for their kids. Wampanoag adults have memories of being a kid during the Thanksgiving season, sitting in school, feeling invisible, and having to wade through the nonsense that teachers were shoveling their way.
Okay, stop. All right, now there's the proof. He's not native. He's talked with the natives. Growing up, dropped down, or talking with the natives, they told him about how they felt growing up, having to endure through Thanksgiving, Pilgrim, pew, pew, pew. Yay, sit down and eat. Go down to underneath the myth, but what we want is what are the most poignant inaccuracies in this story?
One is that history doesn't begin for Native people until Europeans arrived. People had been in Americas for at least 12,000 years, and according to some Native traditions, since the beginning of time, and having history started with the English is a way dismissing all that the second is that the arrival of the Mayflower.
So stop. So that was the first one, that the history of the natives don't begin until the Europeans discovered them. The second, read.
Start with the English is a way of dismissing all that the second.
No. All that was the end of the first. Now, the second, go.
Thank you. The second is that the arrival of the Mayflower is some kind of first contact episode. It's not Wampanoags.
It's not.
It's not. Wampanoags had a century of contact with Europeans. It was bloody, and it involved slave raiding by Europeans. At least 2 and maybe more Wampanoags, when the Pilgrims arrived, spoke English, had already been in Europe and back.
And we know the most famous is Squanto, right?
And back and knew the very organizers of the Pilgrims' venture.
So that's the other story that they lead us to believe. This is the first time we've ever encountered these, well, they called them savages. We encountered these savages and we taught them. Well, they helped us, grow some corn. And so we all sat down because we all made nice treaties together and everything was fine and dandy and we were all friends. That's what happened. That's what they tell us. That's what we were all. I know I was taught that in school. That's what was said. But it's far from the truth. Go down. Now I want most. Well, underneath that. The next paragraph that we was just reading. Yep, go right there.
It backward. No question about it. Wampanoag leader Quasam Quinn reached out to the English at Plymouth and wanted an alliance with them. But it's not because he was innately friendly, it's because his people have been disseminated by an epidemic disease.
Smallpox.
And Quasam Quinn seized the English as an opportunity to fend off his tribal rebels. That's not the stuff of Thanksgiving pageants.
Yeah.
The Thanksgiving myth doesn't address the deterioration of this relationship, culminating in one of the most horrific colonial Indian wars on record, King Philip's War, and also doesn't address Wampanoag. I can't scroll up. Thank you. Survival and adaptation over the centuries, which is why they are still here despite the odds.
So from there, go to Deuteronomy 28. This is what happened. They were coming back and forth, fights after fights. When they first came, they got beat up. They came back with more to kill. They had to figure out how to beat Gad. How we gonna beat Gad? They keep smoking us in. And they kept coming back, and it turned into bloody massacres. Deuteronomy 28. And they didn't care what they did. We're going to read this, then we're going to go to the next article. Start at 49.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
English, Spanish, French, Latin. Read.
A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave either corn, wine, or oil.
Wait a minute. Now, how can anyone say Gad does not fit these curses? How can anybody say that? Because Judah got shipped off. So whose corn and wine was getting eaten? Read.
Or the increase of thine kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down.
That's it. I just wanted 51. From there, go to the next article. We will get some more. Like I said, we're going to do a lot of reading in these articles. This is the one I've had for years. It's very hard to find. Scroll down so we can get the titles. People are trying to get the title.
The Real Story of Thanksgiving. Introduction for Teachers, the Plymouth Thanksgiving
Go
Story.
up to the top, right there. Manataka American Indian Council. That's how you will find it easy. Manataka American Indian Council. That's how you'll find it easy. All right. Go ahead, scroll up.
The Real Story of Thanksgiving. Most of us associate the holiday with happy pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a big feast, and that did happen once. The story began in 1614 when a band of English explorers sailed home to England with a ship full of Pawtusex Indians. Pawtucket Indians bound for slavery. They left behind smallpox, which virtually wiped out those who had escaped. By the time the Pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, they found only one living Pawtucket Indian, a man named Squanto, who had survived slavery in England and knew their language. He taught them to grow corn and to fish, and negotiated a peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Nation. At the end of their first year, the Pilgrims had a great feast honoring Squanto and the Wampanoags. But as word spread in England about the paradise to be found in the New World, religious zealots called Puritans began arriving by the boat. Finding no fences around the land, they considered it to be the public domain. Joined by other British settlers, they seized land, capturing strong young natives.
So you had the zealots or the Puritans, the English Puritans, and the British there. Read.
And killing the rest. But can you pronounce that one more time? Pequot.
Oh, yeah, that's the Pequot. Yep.
Pequot Nation had not agreed to the peace treaty. Squanto had negotiated, and they fought back.
That's why when you go into history, if you're not reading it from his story, you're not reading it from the so-called white man's story. If you're reading it from the native story, they say Squanto was a sellout. And he married, what's the girl's name they made the cartoon of? Pocahontas. Read.
The Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought. In 1630.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not Squanto. Squanto didn't marry her. It's another king that married her. I apologize. That's incorrect. Read.
In 1637, near President Day, Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual green corn
All right,
festival.
so listen. I'm going. Matter of fact, I was gonna wait, but I'm just gonna point it out at the same time. Go down. Wait, read that again.
In 1637, near present day, Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual green corn festival.
What's that? Come up out of this article real quick. Go to the next article. Metacomet. Yeah, I think Metacomet is actually the one who had the sister. Let's go down to, where is it at? Let me find it. Who got a clue? Who got even a thought of what that festival is? The Green Corn Festival. Go ahead. Who? Give the mic to somebody. Brother Manessa.
Shalom, leadership. Happy Sabbath. I believe it's talking about the Feast of Tabernacles.
Exactly what it's talking about. They were celebrating tabernacles. Lo and behold, the year was what did it say, 63? 1637. We was celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles. And what happened? Read on.
Which is our Thanksgiving celebration.
Which is now, all of a sudden, our Thanksgiving celebration. Read.
In the pre-dawn hours, the sleeping Indians were surrounded by English and Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to come outside. Those who came out were shot or clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the longhouse were burned alive. The next day, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony declared a day of Thanksgiving.
Oh, this is how Thanksgiving got started. Oh, this is Thanksgiving. Read.
Because 700 unarmed men, women, and children had been murdered. Cheered by their victory, the brave colonialists and their Indian allies attacked village after village. Women and children over 14 were sold into slavery, while the rest were murdered. Boats loaded with as many as 500 slaves regularly left the ports of New England.
Regularly left the ports of New England. Yeah, the natives was going off in ships as well. Regularly left the ports. Read.
Bounties were paid for Indian scalps to encourage as many deaths as possible. Following an especially successful raid against the Pequot in what is now Stamford, Connecticut.
So, now, following every raid, every time it was a successful raid, what happened? Read.
The churches announced a second day of Thanksgiving to celebrate victory over the heathen savages.
You see that? To celebrate victory over the heathen savages. Thanksgiving. Every time we raid them and kill them and ship them off, Thanksgiving. Every time we raid them and ship them off, Thanksgiving. Read.
During the feasting, the hacked off heads of natives were kicked through the streets.
What? Kicking heads of natives through the streets like soccer balls. Read.
Even the friendly Wampanoag did not escape the madness.
Now, when you go into the history, this is also hard to find out the truth about Plymouth, right? You'll have to look up that title. What happened was they was pulling the embryos out of women, babies that wasn't fully, what's the word? Developed. Thank you, whoever said it. They're pulling them out of the women. They were cutting off their breasts, squirting their milk out of their breasts because they were pregnant. That's what they was doing. Batting they cut off breasts around. Obviously, they was cutting off their heads, which is going to say, which it already said, but then also what? Read.
Their chief was beheaded, and his head impaled on a pole in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
That chief was Philip, or what did it say? What's his name? Here, let's go here now. Go to Metacomic. Go to that Metacomic. Yep, King Philip. So he changed his name to Philip, but his name is Metacomic. And his dad was very famous as well. Read that.
From the top, sir.
Yep.
Metacom, 1638, August 12, 1676. Also known as Metacomet, and by his adopted English name, King Philip, was sachem, elected chief to the Wampanoag people, and the second son of the sachem Massiot. Metacom became sachem in 1662.
All right, so now drop down and go down to
colonies
Initially.
Initially, Metacom sought to live in harmony with the colonists. As a sachem, he took the lead in much of his tribes' trade with their colonies. He adopted the European name Philip and bought his clothes in Boston, Massachusetts. The colonies continued to expand to the west. Can we help me out with that?
Iroquois Confederation.
Iroquois Confederation also was fighting against neighboring tribes in the Beaver Wars, pushing them from the west and encroaching of the Metacom's territory. Finally, in 1672, the colonial leaders of the Plymouth colony forced major concessions from him. Metacom surrendered much of his tribe's armament and ammunition and agreed that they were subject to English law. The encroachment continued until hostilities broke out in 1675. Metacom led the opponents of the English with the goal of stopping Puritan expansion.
Drop down to King Philip's War.
King Philip used tribal alliances to coordinate efforts to push European colonists out of New England. Many of the native tribes in the region wanted to push out the colonists. Following conflicts over land use, diminished game as a consequence of expanding European settlement and other tensions. As the colonists brought their growing numbers to bear, King Philip and some of his followers took refuge in the Great Ossawaset Swamp in southern Massachusetts. He held out for a time with his family and remaining followers. Hunted by a group of rangers led by Captain Benjamin Church, King Philip was fatally shot by a praying Indian named John Alderman on August 12, 1676.
Always your own peoples. Always your own people. Read.
In the Misery Swamp near Mount Hope and Bristol, Rhode Island. After his death, his wife and 9-year-old son were captured and sold as slaves in Bermuda.
Right. They got sold off to the West Indies. Read.
Philip's head was mounted on a pike at the entrance to Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it remained for more than 2 decades. His body was cut into quarters and hung in trees. Alderman was given Philip's right hand as a trophy.
That's just like Jason the Wretch. That's who that was. That's whose head was up there. Metacom. Go back now to the other article. Huh? Yes.
Starting from there.
Yep, from where we left.
Their chief was beheaded and his head impaled on a pole in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it remained on display for 24 years.
In other places you will see it says 25 years. That's why the last article we read, it said for more than 2 decades, right? Read.
The killing became more and more frenzied, with days of Thanksgiving feasts being held after each successful massacre.
So Thanksgiving was every time they killed us. That's Thanksgiving. Read.
After each successful massacre, George Washington finally suggested that only one day of Thanksgiving per year be set aside instead of celebrating each and every massacre.
How about we just celebrate it once a year for all our massacres instead of celebrating it every time we massacre? Thank you, George. Read.
Later, Abraham Lincoln decreed Thanksgiving to be a legal national holiday during the Civil War. On the same day, he ordered troops to march against the starving Sioux in Minnesota.
The same day he said, let's go and kill these guys. Now it's a national holiday. This is going to be one of the greatest massacres. And now it's going to be a national holiday. So when they first decided to make it yearly, it was actually in early December. You'll find that history around December 14th, December 9th. It was early December. Then they turned around and said, let's make it the second to last Thursday of every November. That's how it got to November. It started off yearly in December. Then it went to November. Read. Oh, no, that's it. That's it on that. I just want to drop down to the next part, introduction for teachers. And we're going to go all the way down to Go down to the last paragraph where it says, now that I have deliberately provoked you. Inside that paragraph, go down to Thanksgiving in America. Inside that paragraph, you see first in quotations. Wait, where are you at? No, all the way down. The beginning of the paragraph starts with now that I have. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, there you go. Right there. Now, inside of that, go down to Thanksgiving in America. Right there. Read.
Thanksgiving in America. But it was celebrated 30,000 years ago. At some time during the New Stone Age, beginning about 10,000 years ago, Thanksgiving became associated with giving thanks to God for the harvest of the land. Thanksgiving has always been a time of people coming together. So thanks has also been offered for that gift of fellowship between us all.
Hence, oh, it's just for family. It's just for family. But what is this talking about? What was this Thanksgiving? We already read it previously. It was tabernacles. It was the ear of corn. That was the celebration. That was us coming together. That was what we've always done, tabernacles. It turned into Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving became publicized because the massacring of the natives. Read on.
Every last Thursday in November, we now partake in one of the oldest and most universal of human celebrations, and there are many Thanksgiving stories to tell.
Right, because of course, they're going to clean it up. Read on.
As for Thanksgiving week at Plymouth Plantation in 1621, the friendship was guarded and not always sincere, and the peace was very soon abused. But for 3 days in New England's history, peace and friendship were there.
But for 3 days, guys. Why? Because they did a peace treaty, and then they turned around and did what? Go to Psalms 55.
Verse 21.
Start at 19.
Psalm chapter 55, verse 19. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Selah, because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. He hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant.
That's what he did. That's what Esau has done. Read.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
That's what happened. That's what he did. One other part. I'm going to show you what the natives were doing. Where's that at? I got to get it. One time, several times. Oh, go down to the next one by Chuck Larson, the Plymouth Thanksgiving story. Just keep scrolling down on that same article in green.
The Plymouth Thanksgiving story by Chuck Larson.
But we're just going to go down to the Wampanoags moved several.
Right there. The Wampanoags moved several times during each year in order to get food. In the spring, they would fish in the rivers for salmon and herring. In the planting season, they moved to the forest to hunt deer and other animals. After the end of the hunting season, people moved inland where there was a greater protection from the weather. From December to April, they lived on food that they stored during the early months.
We learned that from Tabernacles, did we not all? Parched corn and things of that nature. That's what we've always did. That was Tabernacle was about, ingathering. And then we held it up all the way to when? First fruits. First fruits. Y'all forgot already? That's what we go over it every year. All praises. Read on.
The basic dress for men was breech clout, a length of deerskin looped over a belt in back and front. Women were
Now, when it says that, it sounds like it was just like it was made like a diaper or something. No, it was all the way down the pants. All the way down the legs. It was pants. Let's see how our sisters dressed. Read.
Women were deerskin wrapped around skirts, deerskin leggings, and fur capes.
We've been wearing leggings. Yep, we've been wearing leggings. Skirts and leggings. Who is that? Read.
And fur capes, made from deer, beaver, otter, and bear skins, gave protection during the colder seasons, and deerskin moccasins were worn on the feet. Both men and women usually braided their hair, and a single feather was often worn in the back of the hair by men. They did not have the large feathered headdresses worn by people in the Plains culture area.
Okay, stop there. Now let's drop down to I just want one more part out of this. You guys can read this on your own. It tells you the story of the Squanto and the other brother, Samoset. Some of you may have heard of them. They also say Samoset. It's Squanto and Samoset. They was the two English-speaking natives. But let's just go down to, where is it at? Oh, there it is. So you see Captain Miles. Scroll down. You'll see one that starts with Captain Miles, a paragraph.
Reading there, sir.
Yeah, read that.
Captain Miles Standish, the leader of the Pilgrims, invited Squanto and Samoset Massaquoi, the leader of the Wampanoags, and their immediate families to join them for a celebration. But they had no idea how big Indian families could be. As the Thanksgiving feast began, the Pilgrims were overwhelmed at the large turnout of 90 relatives that Squanto and Samoset brought with them. The Pilgrims were not prepared to feed a gathering of people that large for 3 days. Seeing this, Massasoit gave orders to his men within the first hour of his arrival to go home and get more food. Thus it happened that the Indians supplied the majority of the food, 5 deer, many wild turkeys. Scroll up.
So it said, who supplied most of the food? The natives. We supplied most of the food. We supplied most of the food. That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. Go to Isaiah 65. All I want is a verse 11.
Isaiah 65, verse 11. Mm-hmm. But ye are they that forsake the Lord, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop.
That's what we did. That's what Gad did. We prepared a table for that troop. That's why Esau loves to say, well, one time we did have a good Thanksgiving. Because we did do that. The natives gave most of the food. We prepared that table for our own destruction. That's why when they said they didn't realize so much people was going to turn out for the feast. Why? So let's go back to the article. And let's go read the paragraph above what we was reading when it said Captain Miles. Start at the Algonquian. So these were the tribes. Look what we were doing. Matter of fact, going much better than the Yep, read.
The Algonquian tribes held 6 Thanksgiving festivals during the year. The beginning of the Algonquian year was marked by the maple dance, which gave thanks to the Creator for the maple tree and its syrup. This ceremony occurred when the weather was warm enough for the sap to run in the maple trees.
What's that sound like? What's that sound like? Read on.
Sometimes as early as February 2nd was the planting feast, where the seeds were blessed. The strawberry festival was next, celebrating the first fruits of the season.
Read.
Summer brought the green corn festival to give thanks for the ripening corn. In late fall, the harvest festival gave thanks for the food they had grown. Midwinter was the last ceremony of the old year, when the Indians sat down to the first Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims. It was really the 5th Thanksgiving of the year for them.
Because we kept the laws of God. We was keeping Passover. We were keeping first fruits. We were keeping tabernacle. We were keeping the laws. Gad was keeping the laws over here like they never did before. That's what they encountered. And they didn't realize what was really happening. That's what they encountered. We were always keeping the laws. Go back. Let's go back to the scriptures. Go to Deuteronomy 14:27. This is what we were practicing.
Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 27. And the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he had no part nor inheritance with thee. At the end
wait, there was one other part. Oh, I'm missing one other part. I'm sorry. Hold on. Finish what we was reading. Go back to and finish where we left off in that other paragraph. I'm sorry.
Captain Miles.
Yep. Thus it happened that the Indians supplied.
Thus it happened that the Indians supplied the majority of the food: 5 deer, many wild turkeys, berries, many wild berries, and berries. Captain Standish sat at one end of a long table, and the clan chief pronounce that one more time. Massasoit sat at the other end. For the first time, the Wampanoag people were sitting at a table to eat instead of on the mats or furs spread on the ground. The Indian woman sat together with the Indian men to eat. The Pilgrim woman, however, stood quietly behind the table and waited until after their men had eaten, since that was their custom.
Read.
For 3 days, the Wampanoags feasted with the Pilgrims. It was a special time of friendship between two very different groups of people. A peace and friendship agreement was made between Massasoit and Miles Standish, giving the Pilgrims the clearing in the forest where the old Patasex village once stood to build their new town of Plymouth.
This is how Plymouth got made. Read.
It would be very good to say that this friendship lasted a long time, but unfortunately, that was not to be. More English people came to America, and they were not in need of help from the Indians as were the original Pilgrims. Many of the newcomers forgot the help the Indians had given them. Mistrust started to grow, and the friendship weakened. The Pilgrims started telling their Indian neighbors that their Indian religion and Indian customs were wrong.
Damn. Read.
The Pilgrims displayed an intolerance toward the Indian religion, similar to the intolerance displayed toward the less popular religions in Europe. The relationship deteriorated, and within a few years, the children of the people who ate together at the first Thanksgiving were killing one another, and what came to be called King Philip's War. It is sad to think that
was
this
it.
happened.
That was it. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 14. Because what was going on is the natives were doing what they always were known to do. And they thought that they could trust the lying heathens. But we were just doing what we always did. Watch, read. We're going to read about it real quick.
Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 27.
Uh-huh.
And the Levites that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance with thee. At the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all thy tithe of thy increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he had no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come, and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand.
Notice it said, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within thy gates shall come and shall eat and be satisfied. Read.
That the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand, which thou doest.
Go to Deuteronomy 26, verse 11.
Deuteronomy 26, verse 11. And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which the Lord thy God hath given unto thee, and unto thine house, thou and the Levite, and the stranger that is among you. When thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thine increase the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, and hath given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. Then thou shalt say before the Lord thy God, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levites, and unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all thy commandment, which thou hast commanded me. I have transgressed thy commandment. I have not transgressed thy commandment, neither have I forgotten them.
You see that? All we was doing was keeping the laws of God. That's all we were doing. Now, some may say, dang, we were very simple, because in doing so, we allowed them to run us over. But all we were trying to practice was the laws of God. But where did the natives go off? Well, when you go into the history, also doing that, we were worshiping the moon, and we were doing other things, transgressing the Lord. But it was a custom of ours to always share our food, always share what we brought in from our hands, from what we grew. It was a custom. It was basically tradition at this point to always do it. So when some people come in from no man's land, well, they go eat too. Go to Leviticus 27. Because notice in verse 13, I'm going to read it real quick. It says, and this is in Deuteronomy 26, it says, then thou shalt say before the Lord thy God, I have brought away the hallowed things out of my house, and also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, according to all thy commandments which thou hast commanded me. Let's see the commandment of the tithing. Leviticus 27, verse 30.
Leviticus chapter 27, verse 30. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the 5th part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the 10th shall be holy unto the Lord.
Right, because we always gave some to the Lord, meaning we burned it up. It was always a sweet savory unto the Lord. Go to Leviticus 19. We're going to read verse 9 and 10.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 9. And when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest, and thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger, I am the Lord.
And then also when you go into the history, that's also what the natives did for the pilgrims. I think it's actually in that article. I just didn't want to go through all of it. But they left some of their corn. And the pilgrims came and just picked it up. Because we were keeping the law. Read.
I am the Lord your God.
Is that verse 10?
Yes, sir. That's all of it.
From there, go to Leviticus 23 now. Because mind you, what we kept reading even in the articles is they were keeping the feast. They were keeping the feast. Well, what does it say inside of keeping the feast? Verse 22.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 22. And when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field when thou reapest, neither shalt thou gather any gleaning of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor and to the stranger. I am the Lord your God.
See, it tells us to do that even inside of keeping the feast. This is right before the 7th month. He gave us that statute, and then he goes into, and now on the 7th month. So even within keeping our feast, we are to do this. So that's what it was. Now you go say the natives is not Israelites? You go say that's not the tribe of Gad? That's not the tribe of Reuben? Where was we? From there, go to Deuteronomy 24 now. 24. Deuteronomy 24, start at 19.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 19. When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all thy work of thine hands.
See that? So even if we was gathering and then some dropped, you don't go back to get it. You leave it. Read.
When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow.
You notice it said don't go over it again? The first time you beat it, whatever drops, that's it. You don't go keep beating it, trying to get it all. You leave it. That's what we've always been told. Read.
When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean it. Afterward, it shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow.
Read on.
And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing.
And that's why. Remember what I took you from. This is why you will always leave it. You was once bondmen. From there, go to Isaiah 65. Oh, no, we read that, right?
Yes, sir.
Go to 1 Corinthians 10. So what happened is, over time, all this thing got perverted, and it made it seem like, oh, it was just a good time, and that was that, and now we all supposed to celebrate together. But as we could clearly see, the natives were trying to continue to practice their customs and their heritage that they have always been taught and that they have always practiced. But then you had the Gentiles come in, and what they do? It was simple idolatry. They was practicing nothing but killing and deceit and saying, God did this for us and thank you. It's pure idolatry. Now, the Bible's going to tell us that. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 20.
1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God.
So any of that food that they say we giving thanks for, and let's cook this and the dressing and cranberry and turkey, they're sacrificing it to devils and not to God. Read.
And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
Wait a minute. What'd he say?
And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
And God said, don't do that thing with them. Read it all over again.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should fellowship with devils.
Read on.
Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils.
Yeah, you cannot do that. You can't say, oh, it's for family. It's just for family. It's family time. God said, no, no, no. You cannot do that. Read.
Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils.
Right. It's impossible. You're either one or the other. You're either a partaker of the tables of the devils or you're the partaker of the table of the Lord. That's it. You cannot do both. I don't care what excuse you done made up in your own head. It is not God's holy convocation. Because what happens is every year, as you get new spirits that come in, they always seem to disappear and the holidays come up. Where'd it go? Where the sister at? Oh, I was sleeping. I was out. I just had a day off. Oh, I was just at my family. I was giving them scriptures. Oh, we didn't heard that. I didn't heard that plenty of times. Oh, I was giving them scriptures. No, I didn't eat. Oh, I didn't heard it. That's what happens, though. Colossians 2, verse 20. But God said you cannot. He said it real plain, too. There ain't no confusion about it. There ain't no me making it say what I wanted it to say. It was just simple cut. Colossians 2, start at verse 20.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 20. Wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances? Touch not, taste not, handle not.
Can't get no more plainer than that. Touch not, taste not, handle not. Why would you be involved in these ordinances? Can't get no more plainer than that. Now, real quick, before I end it, let's go into it. I know most of y'all probably didn't heard it. Some of y'all don't know. Some of y'all do know. We know, just like when you go into advertisements and all these different signs in the earth with these different companies and these different stores, there's always subliminal messages when you deal with the heathens. Likewise, the Thanksgiving dinner. Who knows what the turkey represents? I know we didn't heard it so much. Brothers, give them a mic. Somebody just give the hand a mic. Hey, shalom. Turn it on. Hold on, we get your mic. Nope. What are we doing?
Shalom, leadership. The turkey represents the body of Gad and Reuben.
The turkey represents the body of the native of Gad and Reuben. Exactly. Cranberry. Somebody help me with the cranberry. The cranberry sauce. Give it right next to the brother next to you. Hey, shalom, Brother Kanai.
Shalom, leadership. The blood represents the bloodshedding.
Oh, you said it right. The cranberry represents the blood. It's subliminal. What about the stuffing? The dressing. Brother Sirach.
Shalom, leadership. The atrocities.
The atrocities, or how about the guts themselves? Also, like I spoke about earlier, the unborn babies being ripped out. Hence, they always love to stuff the turkey and eat it on up out of there. I don't know. I never did like stuffing the turkey. That's just me. I liked that dressing off to the side, but, you know. All right. Get it out of my mind. Get it out of my mind. All right. All praises. I'm renewed, brother. I'm renewed, brother. Go to Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5. So mind you, we just read a couple of scriptures that said do not. Simple. It said do not. Do not, do not, do not, do not. Right? Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. But somehow we always like to figure out a reason or why we still do. I know, but. Isaiah 5, verse 20.
Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
Woe unto them that call good evil.
It said destruction unto them that call
evil.
Read it again.
Woe unto them that call evil good.
It said destruction unto them that call evil good. Because that's what we do when we say it's for the family. Read on.
And good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter.
Read.
Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes, and prudent in their own sight.
Right. Woe unto them that try to make an excuse and say it's for family. That's wise in their own eyes, in their own sight. It says destruction unto them. Read.
Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justifieth the wicked for reward.
That's exactly what we do today. We justify that thing. Read.
And take away the righteousness of the righteous from him.
That's right. From there, go to Ephesians 5. Because we always like to say, oh, what are you grateful for? What do we give thanks for? This is the time we can give thanks. Well, what did God say about giving thanks? Ephesians 5, verse 20.
Ephesians chapter 5, verse 20. Give thanks always for all things unto God and the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ.
That's what Christ said. So what, we just give thanks one time a year? No. That's what Christ said. As we seen, that's what they were doing. They was giving thanks every time they massacred us. So that's all lies. It's lies. Period. From there, go to Psalm 64. Because mind you, we seen what the articles we was reading, and the one heathen that did the book, right? Look what the Bible say. 64 verse 8, Psalms.
Psalm chapter 64, verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves.
Yeah, that's what happened. These articles was made by the heathen. These books was made by the heathen. It said what? Read it again.
So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves.
Right. Read.
All that see them shall flee away, and all men shall fear, and shall declare the work of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doing.
That's right. Last verse. Psalms 55, verse 21. Let's go back to Psalms 55, but we're going to read down now. 21.
Psalms 55, verse 21.
So don't fret. Don't fret. This will come to an end. Believe it. Read.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
Read on.
Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved.
That's right. Read on.
But thou, O God, shalt bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee.
That's right. All praises to the Most High. So Thanksgiving is definitely not a holy convocation of the Israelites or God.
We used to scream black power while Heron was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road. Purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.